subscribing to the channel. Okay, let's get into today's case. Now, this is a case that is so shocking to me and just wild that I can't believe I didn't hear it before now. Like, sometimes I hear these cases and I'm like, where was I when this happened? Was I sleeping under a rock or what? But anyway, this is the case of Paris Lee Bennett. It occurred in the year 2007 in a town called Abilene, Texas. Paris was 13 years old at the time, and he sadly murdered his own 4-year-old sister. We're gonna get into the whole sordid tale, but before we do that, we need to stop and take a look at his mother's background. His mother's name is Charity. She was born in 1974 in Georgia. Her parents were Kyla and Bobby. They were very, very wealthy and owned a successful trucking company. When Charity was 6, her parents had been divorced, but they remarried. And a couple of days later, her father was murdered. He was shot in the back of the head. And her mother, Kyla, was charged with this murder. She was accused of hiring a hitman. She was acquitted, ultimately, by a jury. But whether or not she really did the crime is up for debate. Okay? And Charity seems to think she did do it. And if you think about it, why did they get remarried, and then a couple of days later he was murdered, and there was a lot of money at stake, and she got it all? I don't know. But, put a pin in that. Okay. So, that was when she was 6, and her relationship with her mother was never good. They had a very kind of cold relationship with a lot of tension. And Charity became addicted to heroin at age 17. Her mother got fed up with her. She handed her $100 and said, "Here, you can either take this money and go get high, or take this money and go get clean, but don't come back. Bye-bye. Here, get out." Some might say that's tough love, and that's fine. Maybe it is fine. So she took the money. She spent $50 to get high, and the other $50 she used for transportation in 6th grade said that he had the vocabulary of someone who was a college graduate. That is pretty amazing. So you get my point. Then Charity became pregnant when he was 8. And he was not happy about it at all. You know, which is understandable. He was 8. He was quite settled as being an only child, you know. But when she was born in 2002, they named her Ella, and he fell in love with her. They were the best of friends. He played beautifully with her. People said he was the greatest big brother they had seen, and they were such a cute little pair, you know, big brother and little sister. And all was well until Paris turned 12 and Ella was 3. Their mother, Charity, relapsed, this time on cocaine. And it was during this time that they wound up moving back in with her mother, Kyla, which was a toxic environment for everyone involved, because Charity and Kyla did not get along, and it was just not good. She managed to get clean within 6 months, but the damage appeared to be done for Paris because he was extremely resentful of this relapse. Supposedly, during the relapse, a lot of the adult responsibilities fell on him, you know. And he just could not get over it. He felt just so disappointed, and he held a grudge against his mother. And he began to act out quite a lot. He was throwing tantrums. He was banging his head into the wall. And one day, at his grandmother's house where they were living, he was playing with his sister and he broke one of her toys. I don't really know if it was on purpose or not, but he got put into a timeout for it. He was 12, so timeout is kind of weird, but that really doesn't matter. His reaction to being punished was he ran into the kitchen, grabbed a kitchen knife, and that 6-minute call, he called 911. And he cried to them and said, basically that he hurt his sister and she's dead and he thought she was a demon and that's why he did it. And they said, they wanted him to do CPR and he's like, no, there's no point, she's dead. And they're like, just try it, okay? So he pretended to count. You know, they said count to 30 and do chest compressions and blow in her mouth. And he didn't do any of it, but he pretended to because he was counting on the phone and I heard that footage. And the police arrived. She was dead. They could see that there was no CPR done. You could just tell by the way she was positioned and all that. And of course, he was arrested, and they went over to Buffalo Wild Wings and told the mother. Now, imagine for her 4-year-old has been murdered by her 13-year-old. So, she needs to, 1, mourn her daughter and help her son with his defense. Which side is she supposed to be on? Is she on her daughter's side, who was just murdered by Paris, or is she on Paris's side, who needs a defense lawyer? Horrible situation to be in, like literally, definitely one of the worst. So, she ultimately shows unconditional love for Paris, and she wants to help him, of course, even though, you know, she absolutely more than hates what he has done. But she says she never stopped loving him as much as she loved him when he was born. So, the autopsy came back after a couple of weeks, and it turns out that he didn't just stab her 17 times, he also beat her, choked her, and sexually abused her. There was semen found on the bed and in her shorts. And after searching his history on the computer, they found that he had been watching violent porn. Very violent, the kind where people die at the end. So now we have a little more insight into what went on. He had been watching those movies right before he went and did what he did to her. Perhaps acting out the movies. On a 4-year-old. And he is 13. 13. He's 13. And that's her 4-year-old. That's his 4-year-old sister. Okay. When Charity confronts him with this information that they had just learned about the semen, which he had never admitted to, up to that point, he went ballistic on her, okay? He flipped over the table. Mind you, this was in the youth detention facility that he was being held at. And he attempted to choke her. And he punched a wall and he walked out. So that obviously embarrassed him too much. Murdering somebody, stabbing them 17 times, I can admit to you're nuts. You're absolutely crazy. But she said she wants to teach Phoenix about unconditional love. And while he's kind of young now to really understand any of that or what happened, and I wonder if they even told him. I mean, I kind of hope not. But she thinks it's a good idea. And so long as Paris is in prison, everyone's pretty safe, I guess, right? So, that is the story. What do you think? I think I've said a lot of things as we've gone. The professionals have stated that he cannot be cured and that he can only be controlled, and that is best done by keeping him incarcerated. So, should he get out in 2027? Will he get out then? And what about 40 years? 40 years would only make him 53. I mean, isn't he guaranteed to get out then, so long as he doesn't break any rules? That's kind of scary since they're saying he can't be cured. But, I mean, this situation, is it nature, is it nurture? I'm going with nature. Pretty much. And just, I mean, obviously the environment has something to do with it. Like, if she had never relapsed,